Hi there, I'm Sarah Cunnington. Welcome to Drawn-Frm-The-Word. Romans 12 verse 18 says this: "If it is possible, as much as depends on you, live peaceably with all men." So, what happens when it doesn't seem possible? What about the people we know who we really can't get on with? The person who always manages to wind us up by what they say or the way they say it, by what they do or how they do it. Today I want to shine a light on these problem people and these difficult relationships. Let's see what the light reveals. Some people are like a permanent snag in our socks or a thorn in our flesh. You never seem to get away from them. They're always there, always irritating you. It might be someone in your class or club, someone at work, or even in your family. Let me state at the very start that I'm not talking about abusers here, just annoying people. One of the main reasons why we dislike them is that often they mirror unpleasant characteristics that we possess. That can be hard to admit, but it's one reason why changing school or club or job doesn't always solve the problem. We carry our worst traits with us wherever we go. We can wish the other person would change until we're blue in the face, but it won't work. The only way to permanently resolve a conflict like this is to ask God to change us, to change me, to change my anger into appreciation, my jealousy into generosity, my resentfulness into thankfulness. Does that sound crazy? Well, it is. Another crazy thing is that God may well continue to bring difficult people across our path until we accept that we need to change. Even church can be a challenge when someone gets the job you wanted or the gift you longed for. Maybe a friend gets the glory while you stand in their shadow, choking on your disappointment. Are we secretly jealous and resentful? Or have we learned to be genuinely thankful for that person and their gifting? One of my favourite Bible passages is Romans 12, where Paul gives us a very practical and faith-filled pattern for our relationships with Christians and with non-Christians. Above all, he tells us to bless those who persecute us, to bless and not curse, and not to repay anyone evil for evil. Above all, we must not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. It's completely counterintuitive and countercultural, going against all the worldly ways of dealing with difficult people and situations. That's because it's all about overcoming evil with good. This passage echoes Jesus' teachings in the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 5, verses 43 to 48. You have heard that it was said, "Love your neighbour and hate your enemy." But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. One important reason to love them is that God is using them to make us more like Jesus. On servantsofgrace.org, Dave Jenkins makes some really helpful points. He reminds us that God is using difficult people to expose our hidden pride and to humble us. He uses them to reveal areas of weakness in our lives. If we can learn to listen to their criticism without getting on the defensive, that will help us grow. Finally, he reminds us that difficult people also force us to our knees to pray, so they actually draw us closer to God. The sooner we can get to the point where we thank God for them, the better. You never know. We may even get to the place where we can thank them for being used by God to change us. What a turnaround that will be. What a victory. Above all, we need to see them as God sees them and learn to love them as He loves them. So, are we ready to change the way we react, or rather, to change the way we respond? First, we have to be ready to admit how imperfect we are. We are like rough stones that need their rough edges smoothed away. I once saw a TV program about a man who made the most beautiful agate beads. At the start of every winter, he carefully placed a new batch of irregular lumps of agate in a trough at the base of a small waterfall. Now, there was a good reason for this, because in winter, cold water has greater weight than in the heat of summer. So after several months of being submitted to the force of this near freezing water tumbling them together, the stones that emerged in the spring were smooth and round and polished. They were ready to be used in a worthy setting. Maybe if we learn to see ourselves and others in this light, we'll learn to embrace them rather than seek to escape them, to see God in them, or at the very least, to see God working through them. His desire is to change us into the likeness of his Son. I know I still have a very long way to go. I'm not there yet. What about you? Let's not resist the way God chooses to change us. Instead, let's embrace it by his grace. May God bless you richly in the coming week. Bye-bye for now.